morning, and happy Father's Day. Welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual freethinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Jill Poremba, your worship associate for this morning, and the service today will be led by Jody Brown. Thank you to everyone on this morning's worship team, also including music by Bill Mells and Children's Church for Children 3 and Under by Nancy Reed and Kaya Mells. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway, and whether it's your first visit or your 1000th, we are glad that you came. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. We will plan on continuing with hybrid worship services, so you can join us each week here in person or on Zoom or later on YouTube. And this is new, we started this last week. To help us connect better with our friends watching at home, please turn around and give a wave to the camera. And at the end of the service, we will invite our friends on Zoom to turn on their cameras and return the wave. I have a few announcements to share with you today. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share, please fill out the card on your chair. We invite you to bring them forward and place them in the basket after Bill rings the chimes and begins to play. I'll make sure, it's over here, I'll put it out for everyone. We will be assembling comfort bags and writing notes for Planned Parenthood for our service on Sunday, June 30th. Please donate items from the list as you are able. A bin is in the front hallway to place your donations. Gift cards may also be donated. There are a few other announcements for the good of the community.
And I have two of them. The first is the Food Link Pantry food pickup at the last meeting. Received 936 pounds of dried lentils in 1 pound bags. We tried to pass them all out, but we didn't quite make it. So they were desperate for them to go various places, and they went to different churches in the Salvation Army and Gleaner's Kitchen and things like that, but we still had lots left. So I brought a couple of cases here. Some people have discovered them. They're under the coat rack. They're out in the vestibule. And there's also cracked split peas, yellow split peas. So please feel free to take some for yourself. The beauty, of course, is that they keep for a long time. So, and if you have friends that could use them, please take some for them. Great. The other announcement is Pat told me that I was supposed to bring these irises to pass out for people to take. Except she said, just before she left, but don't take those other ones. Those are from our friend who gave them to me to put in the garden, and they're a special color or something. However, she didn't tell me which was the ones from the friend and which were the ones that I was supposed to bring to church. So I decided not to bring either one. However, if you would like some irises, and I'm quite sure they're purple with white on the same blossom, if you would like some, I will bring them next week, but you could also always email me. The easiest address to remember for me is if you just do music@canandaiguauu.org, so the church's website. It goes directly to my email at home. So that's just a real easy one to remember, music@canandaiguauu. So send me an email, and we'll make sure that you get those irises. So, thank you.
Hi. I want to thank everyone who helped us at Pride yesterday in Geneva. It was a beautiful day. Thanks for the fist bump, Melissa. Beautiful day, beautiful people. We did probably 75 or so glitter blessings, And it was just really awesome to be in such a large group of very like-minded individuals. So thank you for everyone who helped with that. It was great.
Thank you. As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and devices. We now enter a space of worship. Now is the time to bring forward any joys and sorrows. We also invite you to come forward to drop a pebble in the water if you have a joy or sorrow that you'd prefer not to share. Would anyone care to help me light the chalice? I was going to pass this.
He's going to adore sorrow. He's very focused.
Oh, gotcha. I gotcha. Well, we'll start the words while he's finishing up. I invite you to join with me in our chalice lighting words as the flame is lit. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. My name is Jody Brown, and I am so happy that you welcomed me as a new member last week. I'm so happy to be part of this congregation, and I'm so pleased to be up here this morning to be able to share with you. I'm just going to tell you a little bit briefly about myself, that I consider myself a lifelong UU, except I didn't realize it till in my 30s. When, as often happens, I was looking for RE for my kids, and I found May Memorial in Syracuse. So, and that was about 40 years ago now. So, now that's it. So, I was inspired in the 11th hour, and by that I mean 10 o'clock last night, to share some memes with you this morning for our opening and closing words. If I had thought of it sooner, I would have sent these memes to Danielle and Tom so they could put them up on the screen. But one of the disadvantages of being inspired in the 11th hour is that I didn't think it was really fair to send them something at 10 o'clock at night and expect them to have it ready for the service at 10 o'clock this morning.
It would have been okay.
Oh, all right. Good to know. So I do apologize that you're not going to be able to see them as well. I will hold them up, but, you know, even the people online, I don't know. Oh, maybe that shows up. Oh, you can do that. Whoa, you guys are good. All right, so I am such a meme person, and I also have OCD tendencies. So I have this whole ritual around my memes. I'm a Facebook addict as well. So I go to Facebook, and I see these memes on Facebook, and then I copy them into my phone, and then I send them from my phone, email them to my computer, and then I download them from my computer into folders on my computer. I have so many folders. I have a gratitude folder, I have a love folder, I have a just general Facebook memes folder, I have a LGBTQ folder, I have a, I think I said gratitude already. I have so many folders I don't even know them all. So, but today, let's see, where am I? Oh, so this morning, I would like to share some memes about journeys. And this first one, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I actually have this on a plaque as I walk out the front door. It's the last thing I see before I leave my house. You can't really see that very well, can you? Well, sorry.
I think at home they will.
Okay, good. And then this next one, I'm going to read it first and then I'll hold it up. Your journey is not the same as mine, and my journey is not the same as yours. But if you meet me on a certain path, may we encourage each other. So that's this one. Oh boy, it's backwards. Okay, I got to do it backwards. Okay. So those are my memes for this morning. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to add. So this is why I think we gather together on Sunday mornings, to encourage each other on our individual journeys. Thank you.
Our opening hymn this morning is in the big book, number 338, I Seek the Spirit of a Child. Please join us as you're willing and able, and rise and join us to sing.
So our story this morning is obviously Harold and the Purple Crayon. And I don't know if people want to come up. We have it on the screen, so you might be able to see it better on the screen. So, one evening, excuse me, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight, and he needed something to walk on. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost, and he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long, straight path, so he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold. He backed away. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. Suddenly, he realized what was happening. But by then, Harold was over his head in an ocean. But he came up thinking fast, and in no time, he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry, so he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie, but there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. So, Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. And off he went looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see. So he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side of the mountain, he slipped, and there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a balloon, and he grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon, big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. Then suddenly, Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it and he drew up the covers. The purple crayon dropped on the floor and Harold dropped off to sleep. And there ends our story.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church in its work. Each week we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. This week the group is the worship team. Anyone interested in finding out more can contact Eileen or Danielle. 1/4 of our plate collection for the blooming season goes to Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York. Planned Parenthood health centers provide a wide range of services, namely preventative care, including birth control, testing and treatment for sexually transmitted infections, and screenings for cervical and other cancers. At Planned Parenthood, their mission is to ensure all people have access to the care and resources they need to make informed decisions about their bodies, their lives, and their futures. You can give to this morning's offering by placing a cash or a check into the basket, or by giving by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering. I will now share our joys and sorrows. For Gigi Horwood Benton, a friend and former UUCC member broke her hip. We're sending her healing wishes. For Elliot, oh, he's back there. His grandpa got a side-by-side that he can ride in. That's exciting. We'll see. For Val, her granddaughter Emily had a joyful wedding celebration last week. It's fantastic. And a joy for this beautiful day, and happy Father's Day to all the dads. I will now drop a stone for these and all the joys and sorrows left in the silence of our hearts. Whatever is in your heart today, we are with you. At this time, if there are any children who would like children's church or nursery care, please go downstairs with Kaya and Nancy Reed.
As we prepare to center ourselves this morning, I have a couple more memes I would like to share. So please relax, Sit comfortably. This one says, inhale blessings, exhale gratitude. And this one you're not going to be able to read very well, but it says, it's from our teal hymnal. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. And if either one of those resonates with you, I'd like you to think about them as you're slowly closing your eyes, if you feel comfortable to do so, and taking a couple deep breaths in, whether you're inhaling blessings or breathing in peace, and exhale, whether you're exhaling out gratitude or breathing out love. And now, with the idea that any activity done with love and presence is a spiritual practice, I'd like you to think about a spiritual practice that you have engaged in at some time. It can be something as simple as this that we do every week here. Something that you've done with love and presence. Try to engage all of your senses in this memory. Were there certain sounds or smells associated with this activity? Did you touch or taste anything? Did you see or visualize anything as part of your practice? At the end of your practice, were you transformed from one state to another? Could you think of this as a spiritual journey? Let us spend a few moments in silence together as we recall this activity we have done with love and presence. Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson has been one of my favorite books since even before purple was my favorite color. I read it as a child, and I read it again many times as an adult to my 4 children. I read it to my grandchildren. One year, I even gave a copy of the book to each of my children and grandchildren for Christmas. I read the book so many times I had it memorized, but I haven't read it in a while now, so I don't have it memorized anymore. But I did at one point have it memorized. Then I grew into my 50s, and for some reason, the book took on a whole new meaning. Maybe it was because I was embarking on my own spiritual journey. And don't we just find resources in the most unusual of places? Who would have thought that a children's book could be so meaningful? This morning, I'm going to share with you 4 reasons why I believe Harold and the Purple Crayon is really a story of a spiritual journey. Now, I've often wondered if Crockett Johnson really meant it at that level, or if the book just speaks to me at this metaphorical level. So I decided to look it up on the internet and see what I could find. What I found was that Johnson described his illustration as simplified, almost diagrammatic, for clear storytelling, avoiding all arbitrary decoration. And his writing style has been described as clear, minimalist, and very effective. While we truly can't know his intent, from these descriptions, my takeaway is that his intent was probably not to the depth that I am making it. However, upon further research, I came across some very interesting discoveries. I found 3 other people who have put online that they also feel that Harold and the Purple Crayon has a deeper meaning. And I'd like to briefly share these because I really thought they were interesting. And this is something new since the last time I gave this reflection to somebody. So, first, Rebecca Vitkus wrote an article in 2014 titled "The Search for Safe Space in Harold and the Purple Crayon." She asks these questions. Where did Harold get that purple crayon anyway? Where are Harold's parents, and why is he allowed to color on walls? Are these scribbles even set on solid walls, or is Harold outside in an open expanse of blank space? I never thought of those questions. She then says, the lack of background information provided for Harold makes the story susceptible to various interpretations. I really liked that line, so we can all have our own interpretation on this. Just as Harold creates his own story using his purple crayon, readers create their own meaning of the text using their imaginations. Regardless of whatever preface critics choose to set before the story, Harold and the Purple Crayon serves as a metafictional text in which a self-aware young boy realizes the power of his autonomy while simultaneously learning the limits of his abilities, dissociating the idea of returning home with traditional sentimentality. Well, I don't know what all that means, but I like the part about we can all make our own interpretations. She ends with Harold learns that with his artistic abilities, he can create a safe space for himself, satisfying his need for comfort and security despite his lack of conventional family. It's funny, I never worried about his lack of conventional family, but that's okay. The next author, whose name goes by Webman, wrote a blog in 2016 titled, What I Learned from Harold and the Purple Crayon. And what he learned can basically be summed up with his one sentence. The message within resonates with all ages. We all have the power to create our story. Lastly, Ross Ellenhorn wrote an article in 2023 titled, What Harold and the Purple Crayon Teaches Us About Resilience. At one point he says, Harold creates a whole universe around him in which he embarks on a hero's journey that eventually leads him home. Now, I will be talking about this hero's journey later on, so I'm glad to see that he agrees with me on that point. He then writes, Our pajama-clad hero's message is about something much deeper and more spiritual than simply bouncing back or bootstrapping. It's about how we get up. Now, getting back to my thesis that Harold is on a spiritual journey, I'd like to start with the color purple because, of course, that is my favorite color, in case you didn't notice. So why wouldn't I like the book? Harold carries that purple crayon around with him wherever he goes. Let me share with you from a website called Empower Yourself with Color Psychology some information about the color purple. The color purple relates to the imagination and spirituality. It stimulates the imagination and inspires high ideals. It is an introspective color, allowing us to get in touch with our deeper thoughts. The difference between violet and purple is that violet appears in the visible light spectrum, or rainbow, whereas purple is simply a mix of red and blue. Violet has the highest vibration in the visible spectrum. While violet is not quite as intense as purple, its essence is similar. Generally, the names are interchangeable, and the meaning of the colors is similar. Both contain the energy and strength of red with the spirituality and integrity of blue. This is the union of body and soul, creating a balance between our physical and our spiritual energies. Purple, or violet, assists those who seek the meaning of life and spiritual fulfillment. It expands our awareness, connecting us to a higher consciousness. For this reason, it is associated with transformation of the soul, and the philosophers of the world are often attracted to it. There's a whole lot more on the website, but you don't need to know that. But this last paragraph, that's the most important to me. I'm going to read that again. Purple, or violet, assists those who seek the meaning of life and spiritual fulfillment. It expands our awareness, connecting us to higher consciousness. For this reason, it is associated with transformation of the soul, and the philosophers of the world are attracted to it. So this is my first reason why I think this book is a metaphor for Harold's spiritual journey, the color purple, signifying transformation and assisting those on their spiritual journey. So now, let's move to the moon. For those of you who don't know, I identify as a Unitarian Universalist pagan. The forces of nature are very important to my spirituality, and as we travel along with Harold, we find that the moon always travels with him. This reference to nature appeals to the pagan in me. Harold looks to the moon for its guidance, and the moon is always there to guide him along. In fact, the moon is what guides him home. In a spiritual journey, it's important that we have a guiding force to keep us on the right path as we travel. Sometimes that guiding force is a mentor, a person to guide our journey, but in Harold's case, it's the moon, and that is just what the moon does for Harold. So, my second reason why Harold and the Purple Crayon is a metaphor for a spiritual journey, the guiding nature of the moon. Next, and this is my favorite one, is Harold's crayon and how he uses it. Harold, even at his young age, understands that he is a co-creator of his universe. He uses that purple crayon to create his own reality. Remember when his hand was shaking so badly and he inadvertently found himself underwater? But he came up thinking fast and in no time at all was climbing aboard a trim little boat. Or how about the time he climbed up the mountain to see if he could find home? But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped and there wasn't any other side of the mountain. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He draws a balloon and saves himself once again. I would like to share with you a quote by Carolyn Mace, the author of 4 New York Times bestseller with a leading voice in the field of energy medicine and human consciousness. She says, "Co-creation is a reality, but you have to understand what heaven means by reality. It is not a dynamic that serves our personality. It's a dynamic that serves the soul. And if you were to understand that your soul and your personality generally make 2 different choices, it would be easier to understand the unfolding of the dynamics of your life because they unfold according to the needs of your spirit and not the wants of your personality." This is excerpted from her book, Advanced Energy Anatomy, The Science of Co-Creation and Your Power of Choice. Now, I had to read that paragraph 2 or 3 times before I fully understood what she was trying to say. So let me see if I can make it simpler. Co-creation occurs at the spiritual level because your soul and your personality are often at odds and making different choices. But the needs of the soul usually win out over the wants of the personality. On my own spiritual journey, it took me quite a while to fully wrap my head around the idea that we co-create our own realities. But Harold understands it really well, doesn't he? I really admire him for that. And I've learned a lesson that he does it so easily. I want to be able to do it that easily as well. His purple crayon is the externalization of the inner strength and wisdom that we carry within us to keep us on our path, on this journey we call life, and the symbol of our ability to co-create our own realities. So this is reason number 3 why I see this book as a spiritual journey metaphor. Harold's use of his purple crayon to co-create his reality, and remember that co-creation occurs at the spiritual level. Finally, we get to the quest itself. Joseph Campbell, in his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, writes about the hero's journey. Remember how Ross Allenhorn talked about the hero's journey? It's found in myths from around the world, and he calls it the monomyth. I found this definition of a monomyth: the standard path of the mythological adventure of the hero. It's a magnification of the formula represented in the rites of passage, separation, initiation, return, which might be named the nuclear unit of the monomyth. In more explicit terms, if we were to expand that out a little bit, the monomyth has a series of components, which includes, among other things, the call to adventure, crossing the threshold, helpers, tests, a climax, and a return. William J. Bausch, author of The Yellow Brick Road, A Storyteller's Approach to the Spiritual Journey, states it yet another way in his book. He calls the elements of a spiritual journey the holy discontent, the call, the beginning of the venture, insight, and allies. So here's how I see some of these elements in Harold's adventure. First, the call to adventure, or the holy discontent. The book starts. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. He was called. He thought about it. He decided to go. Thus starts the separation phase of his quest. Next, we have crossing the threshold, or the beginning of the venture. He draws the moon, he draws his path, and he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. Crossing the threshold means going out into the new frontier, which is exactly what Harold does when he draws his path and sets off on his walk. This is the beginning of his venture. This leads to the third element, helpers or allies. I see both the moon and his big purple crayon as his helpers or allies in this adventure. They are with him the whole time, and they certainly aid him on his journey. In a way, I suppose you consider the very hungry moose and the deserving porcupine as helpers when they helped him finish the leftover pie. You might even consider the policeman a helper on his journey, although he pointed the way Harold was going anyway, so I don't know how much help he was. Okay, so next, another element is tests. I mentioned a couple of them previously when Harold was co-creating his own reality, finding himself over his head in the ocean and falling into the nothingness of the no other side of the mountain. In both of these, we already learned how he passed his tests with his helper crayon. The final test is finding home, of course, and in the end, he does that as well. Passing all of these tests qualifies him for getting through the initiation part of his quest. This leads us to the last two elements, the climax and the return. The climax is this. Then suddenly he remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. This is when Harold finds his bedroom window by drawing it right around the moon, and then he makes his bed. And there you have the return. My favorite line from the book has always been, he got in it and he drew up the covers. I've never been very good at double entendres, but even as a kid, I understood that one. To this day, it still makes me laugh. So, there you have it. The 4 reasons why I consider Harold and the Purple Crayon to be a metaphor for the spiritual journey. 1, the color purple, which assists those who seek the meaning of life and spiritual fulfillment. 2, the guiding force of the moon. 3, his purple crayon with which he co-creates his own reality. And 4, the quest itself, which follows the hero's journey. Coming to this conclusion about the book has made me like it even more. I feel like Harold is one of my allies on my spiritual journey. He is someone I can take a lesson from, gain some insights from, and learn how to have some fun on this adventure we call life. I hope you all will continue to enjoy Harold and the Purple Crayon as much as I do, and I thank you for letting me share my thoughts with you this morning.
Purple crayon, draw a line, making a journey for you. Here you have a dragon, there you have a mountain, and in the window, the moon. Red and yellow and pink and green, purple and orange and blue. We can find a rainbow, we can find the moonlight on a purple journey.
Oh, do we do closing words first? Sorry. I left my paper up here, so, okay, closing words. All right, let me find my closing words. Okay. I want to go back to, this meme. Your journey is not the same as mine, and my journey is not yours. But if you meet me on a certain, I'm reading this backwards, certain path, may we encourage each other. May we continue to encourage each other on our spiritual journeys. Blessed be, amen, so be it.
Our closing hymn today is number 295, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. Please rise as you're willing and able. Join us to sing.
If you are with us today on Zoom and would like to wave goodbye at the end of the service, you can turn on your camera now. Please join me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts
until we are together again.